Welcome, everyone. This is the Learning Journey, a new podcast for the Institute of Professional Excellence. My name is Elias, will be your host. Today we have our wonderful guest and good friend of mine, Andreas Xenofontos. Andrea, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Elias. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So I want to ask you, Andreas, if you could describe yourself in a few words, who would you say you are?
Andreas is someone that explores his curiosity. My motto in life in general is I want to improve a little bit on a daily basis. I want to keep the learning mindset both in a professional and in a personal level. So in a nutshell, that's who I think I am.
Okay. Good introduction. Thank you for that. I want to ask you, so how did you get to where you are today?
So I graduated high school here in Cyprus. I'm originally from here. I grew up here, went to the mandatory military service up until the age of 21. And then after that, I transitioned to the United States. I was lucky enough, and I feel very grateful for that opportunity to study with an academic and an athletic scholarship through soccer, or in Europe, obviously is known as football. Stayed there, did 1 year in Lincoln Memorial University, finished up my undergrad at the College of Worcester in Ohio with my economics degree, and transitioned to a master in sports management and business analytics from the University of New Haven. Some internships through my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And then after I finished my master, I'm currently working as a media analyst for BMG 360. It's my full-time job, which is a full performance marketing agency in the United States with offices in New York and in Connecticut as well. And some exciting project on the side as well. We're currently officially released as I'm the co-founder of Ludius Student Athletes, which is a consultancy for aspiring student athletes that they want to go to the United States, and study on an athletic scholarship and pursue similar journey that I have done. I'm going to kind of pay it forward. So that's kind of the side exciting project apart from my full-time job that's going on in my life right now.
Great, Andreas. I want to ask you as well, how did you decide to follow this path you're on, and how did you develop this passion for helping early career professionals?
So kind of the opportunity for the US, it was showing from a close friend that we went to high school together. He went there, he's like, hey, I was thinking to go to England or in Europe in general for my studies. I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but he thought like it's a good opportunity to explore this combination of playing soccer at a very, very high level, but at the same time getting a great education. And the US offers that opportunity with the collegiate athletics. And following that path after high school, I felt the exposure through, yes, it was great that I played soccer and pursued that dream. But at the same time, I really cared about my career. I really cared about my degree. Kind of sophomore year, I was like, okay, that's great, but I need to start getting internships. I wanted to find a full-time job, obviously, after I finished my degree. And kind of the same friend that helped me happened to be a great friend from Cyprus that we studied together. He's like, you have to get more exposure to the resource guides at the university. You have to start exploring. And kind of that opportunity started from my sophomore and junior year, secured some internships. But to answer kind of your question, I was exposed from people that they were ahead in the journey from me at that point.
Okay, so you touched upon something quite interesting, which is, you had someone to help you and guide you and give you some good advice that, in essence, you used to develop yourself and develop a little bit of a passion for helping young professionals. I would say, how did you develop that passion in a way? Did you feel like an obligation to pay it forward? I.e., someone did help you, get your feet up and running, helped you, guide you in certain ways? Do you feel like you started to help young professionals that you're doing now for the past couple of years because you felt this obligation to pay it forward?
I think yes and no. You can say it's an obligation, but I think it's more like human nature, right? I do believe, I want to think that I'm a positive guy or like brings good energy on an everyday, or that's what I strive for no matter what's going on in general. But I think we want to help. It's human nature, it's consciousness. That's what makes us different from other animals, right? We want to help others. So from one aspect, obviously, it comes natural. I want to pay it forward. I want to maybe inspire someone or something that in a conversation might tell someone that's younger than me. Some other mentors that I have or I had in my life that they have told me something that do or don't do. If I experience it the same, maybe I didn't listen to that advice and I can say it to someone else and actually listen. So it goes both ways. It's a natural instinct of humans. So I think that kicks in. But on the other side, it's a lot of the times, and I think there is nothing wrong with that. Those what we know as more transactional relationships in a business aspect. So I go provide the service. You do a good job. You do a work. You get paid for it from an employer or from someone else. You get rewarded with another connection, or the other way. Someone connects you because maybe in the future they wanted somehow to get it returned, and I think there is nothing wrong with that. Given that obviously it's transactionally genuine, I don't know if that kind of term exists, but if you always keep that in mind, being genuine, there is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I really like your point, and also to that point as well, that you feel like part of yes or no to pay it forward, and you feel like it's also a natural obligation for you because you're a genuine person as well. You, for the past couple of years, you've been developing your personal brand on LinkedIn. So how have you approached that? How have you done that?
So I had LinkedIn I think I created when I went to the US. That's like 7 years ago. Didn't really pay attention to it for up until like 3 years. It was one of those, just had it for the sake of it. And then again, what I mentioned before, that mini crisis, sophomore, junior year, what do I want to do? Like I need to kind of utilize the platform at some point to utilize my connections and find internships and so on. And I recall after I got my internship, the first year of my master, I had a good internship with a company in the US in the Connecticut area. But it felt like, oh yes, that internship finished. It was great experience. Was going to finish up my degree, but still, like, I needed to secure a full-time job. And I felt like I was running out of time and I had to utilize LinkedIn in a way. So I started slowly sharing my projects that I've done mostly during my master's and in the analytics aspect, but at the same time building a portfolio website, showcasing my work, sharing my experience through that journey of trying to secure a full-time employment. So it was a combination of posting 2 to 3 times a week, putting yourself out there because nobody's going to do it for you, either projects or like generally curiosity of what I've seen through that journey of networking with different people, either in the industry, alumni, people that they were Greek Americans in the US, other people that I knew, random people that I knew. So all of those interactions kind of sharing out through that journey of trying to secure a full-time job.
Also, during this journey of developing your personal brand, putting yourself out there, because there's a lot of other things that come by consequence of that. What are a couple of lessons you think you can share with professionals or young professionals maybe looking to start out, and what is some of the lessons you've learned during the development of your personal brand on an online mass scale?
So the first one that comes to mind, and I think it's the most important one, is the idea of rejection, right? You are gonna get rejected no matter what you do. I'm also like I wouldn't call myself a data guru. I don't think I'm that, but I'm very data nerdy, very analytic guy. I was tracking how many applications I've done through that year that I was trying to secure a full-time employment. I'm pretty sure it was more than 300 rejections at some point, until I got a few offers and were able to transition to the full-time employment that I have right now. I also got, I guess, rejected in quotations of people trying to reach out to them and learning more about what they do, and they never responded. That's okay. You should learn and practice that muscle of, you're gonna get rejected. Don't take it personal. People are busy. We are all busy. So they didn't respond, maybe because they are not using LinkedIn, not because they didn't, I guess, like me, or maybe they also see it. How many times we see a message and then, oh yeah, I'm gonna reply to Andreas or Elias. Then you do something that you just forgot. It might perceive that, oh my God, you didn't reply to me, but has nothing to do with me. So that muscle memory, that idea of rejection, is the biggest lesson. And then the second one is, if you don't put yourself out there, I'm sorry to break it to anyone that has a different idea, nobody's gonna do it for you. I like you, I guess we are here, we are having a nice conversation about careers, but I do not care about your career as much as you do. You do not care about my career in general as much as I do. That's fact. My manager at work in general, they don't care as much as I do. They do care, that's great. But having that mindset that if you don't do it, nobody's gonna do it for you. So you gotta put yourself out there in one way or another, and obviously utilizing LinkedIn for professional networking, professional development. It's a great tool to do that.
Yeah, about the rejection thing, I think it's a really interesting point that you brought up as a lesson you learned from your time, having started developing a personal brand, putting yourself out there. I think rejection in today's days and age, is that people view it as more of a negative thing, when actually from your side, from your open-mindedness and all these things, it looks like and it sounds like you're saying that you were using that as an opportunity to see and taking it on as feedback. Okay, so I approached 50 people or 50 applications. First, it didn't happen. So you come back to yourself and you're asking yourself constantly. You're curious. You want to know why it didn't work out. You're looking also from the data-driven side of things. Okay, was my application too long? Was I not using the right keywords? Was maybe, timing is also a big thing. So the fact that you started off, got all those rejections, and you used it so positively, I think it's really invaluable. And it's good that you're going to be sharing also a lot of insights that you learned through your journey. But I think people view rejection as something negative, as something, a failure or something, when it should be, more of a feedback thing. Okay, let me take this on board. I got rejected from 100, 200, 300 places, but you kept applying. How can I use that as someone who's going to maybe listen to your advice, as someone who's done it? How can I take that and apply it to myself and use that as feedback, not as something that, defines you as, someone who got X amount of rejections. And at the same time, an additional point I want to add is that it really only takes 2 or 3 or maybe just one opportunity for someone to say yes, and then the door is there and you're ready. But if you go from the mindset that I'm a failure, I reached out to 10, 20 people that didn't respond, and then you're down and you say like, I'm not good enough, all these things, then of course it's not going to be positive. It doesn't serve you. But if you take it from the feedback perspective, you look, what can you do? What's in your control? Can I send more applications? Of course you can. You can send as many as you want. And again, you only need maybe 1 or 2 yeses to get your confidence, to see that there's a new opportunity for you, all that kind of stuff. So I really like that. The other thing I want to transition to is you're going to have a course with us, with the Institute of Professional Excellence. You're currently a few days away from recording your first ever course. What are you hoping once the course goes live? What are you hoping that the course will be able to achieve? And how do you think the course will be able to impact, young professionals?
I think the course, obviously we're biased, right? I created in collaboration with the Institute. Let's be honest here, we might be a little biased, right? But what I want, what I hope that it does, it's a comprehensive document that I've tried to put different learnings that I had throughout, especially the last 2.5 years, finding those internships in the full-time job, the interactions that I have in different networking events throughout LinkedIn, what I'm currently doing at my workplace, what I'm experimenting. It's a way to bring everything together. The different resource guides that we've built, kind of bringing everything to one place, a neutralized place. And someone, if one person, if 1, 2, 3, a few people just got some value of it and changed slightly their way of approaching either the job application, what they currently do at their work, or how get a small tip of how to change their profile on LinkedIn, I would be so happy about it. And I think that's what we try to do, and I hope we accomplish to put in that course all together in one place. You have it there. You liked the idea of it. Maybe you don't necessarily like the whole thing that we put together, but then you used something, you transition, and that helped you to go somewhere else in your professional career, slightly transition something that could provide some value. It always goes back to how much value can we provide. And I think, and again, I hope that we did that.
Yeah. The one thing I want to touch upon as well is that, these young professionals who the course is targeting and who you want to help because you have a passion for it and a genuine desire to do so, is that, the first step is them signing up to the course. So when a young professional or a learner of the course signs up to this course, they've already started their process of like, okay, how can I learn from someone that has knowledge, that has experience, and they're willing to share it with me? So the fact that they've signed up to this course and they're starting, that's a good first step. Mm-hmm. The second thing I wanted to add is that with your course, I think we've done a good job to be, as inclusive as possible without making it impossible to work through it. The good thing and the great thing, and I think that's something that makes your course unique to other things out there, is that you have built a unique resource guide. So this resource guide is something that people, young professionals, can use as sort of a guiding tool in their daily job hunting, in their daily job searching process, interviews and everything. They can use these things that you've shared as specific templates that can help them. So you've created this based on your experience. You've compiled basically like a hack, a job hacking seeking thing, kind of like a guidance templates that they can literally replicate and use for their thing. So they don't need to go through the whole process that you did, which was searching about these things, maybe talking to several people about, they have a dedicated space with all these resources that they can use. And I think that's something really good that you've done with the resource guide. And we're really excited to share the course with our audience, with the new professionals as well. And overall, I think it's going to be really valuable for them.
And that's the goal. Again, it's just different. Always it comes from my experience, right? What I was exposed to, different things that I am, different newsletters from high achievers, people, things that I've heard from different mentors, friends and so on in the similar industries, different industries, even some things that I like that I try to put together. Okay, that makes sense. And another point to add here is those things that I guess I'm recommending, I can hopefully guarantee or reassure potential learners that I'm trying to implement them as well. So what I'm preaching in quotation, that I'm trying to do it as well. Those different mini hacks is things that I've experimented in the past. I have experience and they worked, maybe they didn't work, maybe I transitioned, but it's things that I'm actively trying either currently at my workplace that I'm currently working or through my job hunt, different internships in the past and utilizing LinkedIn in the past and on a daily basis going forward.
Yeah, so with the course, obviously, it's going to happen. It's very valuable. What would you say are some key skills that young professionals should develop, maybe from the networking side, maybe from their soft skills, that will really help them during their job hunting and also starting their path in the professional workplace?
The most important one, I think, is the ability to pivot. And what I mean by that. So for example, let's say I went to the university, I did a mathematics degree. With mathematics degree, you can do a lot of things. You can go more to maybe more analytics, more the engineering, more of the coding. You can do anything, right? So if you have this type of degrees, instead of saying, I'm an early career professional, I don't know what to do, maybe that's a little bit contradicted in the idea. Maybe not a lot of people might believe that, but I do believe that you shouldn't necessarily turn your passion into work. We hear a lot of that about that idea, make your passion your work. I don't agree with that. You can have as many passions as you want. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to monetize it or it has to be your main job. You can do it on the side, and if you can monetize it, that's great. But if you are very skillful, let's say, as I mentioned on the mathematics example, you try to go more on the analytics and the coding, maybe let's say you are good at it, but maybe you don't like it that much. I can guarantee you that if you more explore it, if you explore that curiosity, that mindset, keep that learning mindset, you're going to find a way to even combine it with your passion on the side, but you're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm good at it. So I can monetize it. I can find a job that's more on the analytics or on the coding. But the ability to pivot and use it and make it towards my passion, great. Maybe I can utilize it to find more on the client service, more front office job, also great. Utilizing my soft skills and my technical skills, again, great. That ability to pivot, it's vital. It's the most important thing. That obviously, hopefully the course does that, but in general, as we are starting our careers, I'm still very early in my career, right? Only one year been working officially at the workplace, but having that ability to utilize the skills and what you've studied and kind of transitioning and having that mindset throughout your career.
Yeah, I want to transition a little bit further to go a bit deeper. I mean, from your experience now, obviously you've been on LinkedIn for a while, you've seen the platform develop, but more from a workplace perspective, especially for young professionals and stuff like that the platform has developed a lot, LinkedIn, I mean, as well as the workplace, because since COVID, a lot has happened. I want to ask you, what kind of trends have you seen that have been taking place or changing within the professional workplace environment?
So one trend that comes to mind is that, and that's one of the biggest advantages and the biggest things that technology and social media have brought into our lives and have tremendously changed our lives the last 10, 12 years. I know it's been here for more time, but we've seen the impact the last few years. And as you mentioned, especially after COVID, is the ability that everyone has a platform. And I mentioned that before, like you have the personal brand. Nobody cares about your career as much as I do. So everyone has that individual, that has the power with storytelling, with good storytelling, with good, genuine, let me add that, storytelling to share their journey. People will care, people will associate with that. So if you slowly build that ability, I think that's the most important skill, the ability to storytell, to say a good story. The biggest, even in life, the biggest thing you can improve. So that has changed a lot. You've seen a lot of, I don't recall the names right now, but I've seen data analysts having a good, let's say the traditional 9-to-5 job through LinkedIn, but because they have a good platform, they were able to utilize that and showcase their passion through selling and some painting stuff that I've seen in the past. Some people built YouTube channels and they love the ability to teach, so they utilize LinkedIn to do that. And it does that ability. That things have changed, and I think it changed in a good way forever. It gives you that ability again to pivot to different things at the same time. Use that platform, showcase your story, and people, if you are genuine, people are going to associate with it and find value in it.
Yeah. The one thing I really like that you touched upon is about, not necessarily it being a good idea to use your passion as a way to, develop your career and all these things. But the one thing that you touched upon again about everyone has now a platform that they can share these things. Some people, we see them, starting more of a side hustle / hobby. They're using LinkedIn as a platform to help bring that in. So they're a full-time employee. They have their day jobs, let's say. And then they also have other passions and hobbies that they are doing on the side. And now with LinkedIn, we're seeing more and more, and what LinkedIn has allowed, not only LinkedIn, but other platforms as well, specifically LinkedIn in this situation though, has brought people the awareness that, hey, I have this going on for me, like the arts and crafts, whatever, could be a brick and mortar store, something you're doing on the side in your own time. You can bring that in and use that to also develop your, let's say, personal brand. Because at the end of the day, everyone does have a personal brand, okay? But different people have been able to use that and leverage that within their online platform and develop their network, their personal branding on a more, high level on LinkedIn, rather than it being something that they only communicate with their close network, maybe some friends and all these things. What I wanted to say is that also when you do go down that route of, opening up your, let's say, passion or hobby from something that was more close circle to making it online, you invite naturally, let's say, haters, doubters, people that want to maybe attack you, or maybe they're doubtful of what you're doing, because it could be because they're jealous, or it could be because they have something that you don't and they don't know how to do it, okay, themselves. Now, when you do something like that, i.e. you bring in a hobby or something you're passionate about to life or to the online space, LinkedIn, for example, it can be really tricky because you're putting yourself out there. You're afraid of maybe a backlash or something. For your side of things, how have you dealt with that? Because obviously you're putting yourself out there. You're creating content for young professionals, targeting young professionals at this point. You invite maybe close family, friends, even people you work with, people you've interacted with in the past. You invite them to, let's say, comment things or say things. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think it's inevitable, right? If you're trying to do something that you're not comfortable, you are always going to have those, I guess, doubters or like mini haters. I experienced that myself. I have even some from my close environment, like joking around, you are the LinkedIn guru and so on. Sometimes it gets to you, but then I'm like, okay, going back to yourself, what is my goal here? What's my purpose? Am I being genuine? Am I actually interested in sharing some things that I've learned? Am I okay with what I'm doing? Am I preaching what I'm teaching? So those things are never going to go away. So I'm not saying it doesn't get to you. Obviously, they impact you at some point, but I think slowly with timing, people are going to, those people that they also appreciate, I guess, the work you do, they are going to come and comment and say, hey, man, I saw that and it was great. I had actually some also the good interaction. So you posted that tip and it was great and I found value in it. It sounds so simple, but I never heard it that way. So thank you for, I guess, posting and so on. But you also have the other ones, which is great. And the other thing is, it maybe comes from a good place, a joke, which they want to tease you, that's fine. No worries on that. But you also should not take, I guess, advice from someone that's not their expertise. Family and friends are for specific things. Maybe you don't necessarily take a personal or a business or a marketing analytics, which mainly what I'm doing, and the passion for young professionals from your parents, right? They cannot associate. They are from another generations. They cannot associate with what you are going through. They were not exposed to LinkedIn when they were like trying to start out and so on. So maybe there are people that you have to go out and ask their opinion or hear their advice for different things in life, if that makes sense.
Sure, no, that does make sense. And I can, relate as well to myself to a certain extent. When you're starting something new or transitioning, pivoting a job or something, your career, always there's going to be something saying something negative or, their own way. But at the same time, it's important, like, your drive, the reason why you're doing what you do, helping young professionals at this moment because you have the experience. And if, exactly like you said earlier, if you can help one or two people, which, it clearly shows that you've been getting also positive messages, that should be a reaffirmation for you to show that, hey, actually, what I'm doing. Some people don't care about it, and that's fine. I don't care about those people in that particular environment, but you do care about the people that have reached out to you and told you, hey man, you helped, thank you. And then that gives you the drive and the boost to do more. So I think it's really interesting. And I think I want to touch upon something else that you said earlier in our discussion, which was about rejection. I think the way you're approaching it, and that you're continuously curious and you want to ask yourself questions and all these things, I think it really helps in this situation, because in a way, your friends and family, when you're starting to build your personal brand and putting yourself out there, and those long nights that you're thinking of content to plan, because from your insights, you're trying to give them as actionable as possible. You're trying to clarify, refine the idea in your mind and share that with people. I think the fact that you've dealt with a lot of rejection before and earlier in your career, it's also the same thing. These people are kind of, they're kind of rejecting your idea, but you persevere and you know that this is the path I want to do. It feels good. I feel good inside. So I should continue. And I've seen the results in that. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, and it's a skill, right? It's a muscle. I think based on the rejection aspect and trying not to adhere to this type of doubters in general, I'm very grateful and lucky that I had the opportunity to study and work right now in the US. But there's a system that works right there with, after you've finished your degree, you're allowed to have some form of what's known as working visa when you are a student, right? And you have a limited amount of time to do that. You have from 90 days after you graduated, from your starting day that you said to the US immigration government, hey, from that moment, I think I'm gonna get employed. If you don't, you have 90 days for that. And I was really, really close to had to leave the country. And at that moment, it felt like it was the end of the world. Obviously, it wouldn't be, now that I'm thinking about it. Even if I had to leave the country and come back to Europe or in Cyprus or anywhere in the world that I was seeking employment, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. At that moment, in my eyes, it was the worst case scenario. But that built, it's a muscle that I think through that hard time that not only me, thousands of international students experience in the US specifically, and that's how the system works, and in different types of, in Europe as well, and in different countries have these employment visas and so on. So all around the world, people that they want to immigrate and they want to explore that opportunity, those things exist. Not having those doubters back then, or like having those doubters when it started there, and persevering, yes, I'm going to do the best of my ability on a situation that you cannot control. You cannot control the quota that the US government can accept for the employment visa. You cannot find it, you are out. That's okay. That's the rules. So if you embody yourself in that moment and say, oh my God, that's how it is. Like, get over it. And that kind of a little bit strict mindset and reflecting on yourself, that's the situation. I think it relates back to the doubters. Hey, they're always going to be there. That's fine. They can say whatever they're going to say. Again, it might come from a good place. Having the open mind to get the constructive feedback as well from people that you value their opinion. They might say something you don't necessarily like. It stems from there, but I think it was a great practice for me, and I'm really fortunate for my struggle to find the first job. It built that muscle of the rejection, as you mentioned before.
I want to say, obviously, you did a lot of applications, 300 plus, a lot of rejection here and there, feedback you took in. I mean, in those moments, especially, when you're given 90 days to find employment and you manage to secure a full-time job in the US within, towards the end of that time, it must have been extremely stressful. I mean, what motivated you to keep going at that time?
The fear, the survivalistic. I really wanted to stay. I'm very grateful for the country, the US as in general. It's an amazing country. Obviously, it has its issues like every other country you live in. It's built on immigration. Immigrants build the country, and it's great. You get that sense of feeling. You're proud to be there. Like I am genuinely proud. I've been there for 7 years. I love it there and so on. Again, very grateful for the opportunity. But you build that mindset. Hey, I'm out. It's just if I don't figure it out. Again, that moment I felt it was the end of the world. It wasn't. But that striving of, hey, it's a survival instinct, it motivates you, the fear of motivation. And at the same time, I think and I hope that I did a good job of I was keeping myself sane with family and friends. So I have a very close relationship with my family and my friends. They were there to support me. They were there to, hey, maybe take a break, maybe look at it that way, the other way. Always coming from a place of a good place. They were trying to help. So I'm really grateful for that. Kind of taking your complaints to them, feeling like it's the end of the world. So those two things kept me moving. But there is nothing great, I guess, in some form in our lives. We're going to have to experience that fear of survival, and you have to do something in a situation. And I'm very fortunate for it. It taught me a lot, and on how to handle LinkedIn and networking in the professional aspect, but for myself, how to handle the patients, the transitioning when you get the rejection, how to prepare for the interview, what to wear, all of those small details. That period was great, great learning experience for me.
It sounds like it was. I mean, two things there. The first, it's great that you have such a close relationship with family and friends that you're able to vent to them, to quote unquote complain, all these things. It sounds like you have a really good support system, and I think that's super important for anyone, especially when they're going through challenging times. Young professionals, I think they don't have the experience to know what to do in a best situation. I mean, no one knows, but they don't have the experience to live through that. So the fact that you had such a good support system to help you get through those times, knowing your goal, knowing what you wanted to do, definitely helped. The other thing I wanted to touch upon, which I think you're absolutely right about, the survival instinct, about fear as motivation, I think is critical. And I think a lot of people think fear, maybe, I mean, it's negative, it's being afraid, being scared. But in this situation, it was, your life was not in danger. Okay, you need to recognize that. And it sounds like, at the end, you managed to do that. Fear usually motivates you more than if you were okay, it's not the end of the world. In your mind, you painted the picture of me not finding a job in 3 months and 90 days, whatever. It's actually the end of the world. And you were afraid, you were scared. So you use that as fuel to help, propel yourself forward, to say, you know what, I'm going to go through every possible situation. I'm going to approach as many people as possible. I don't care. That motivation, that instinct of survival, you've got to survive. You really use that. And I think a lot of people now or young professionals, I think they don't have the guidance, the ability to see that as something positive. When they have something hard in their careers or in their lives starting out, they fall back and they crash and all these things. It sounds like, because you're curious, you're open-minded, you're driven, you've been there for several years, you saw the potential life that you want to have, that really motivated you to say, like, hey guys, to your family, to when anyone you interacted with, hey guys, I want to be here, I'm going to do whatever I can. So use fear to motivate you, and I think that's great. Do you ever feel like you're an imposter now?
Yeah. Great question. I think it's inevitable, right? You are always naturalistic to feel like that. A lot of the times when in the interview aspect, I felt like maybe I'm presenting myself or like some skills or like selling myself more than I can just because, let's say, I wanted that job. So that fear of motivation, sometimes it wasn't the best because maybe I was going to make a decision to go forward to a few of the interviews that maybe I wasn't a good fit. And maybe I'm glad that it didn't work out at that moment. And you're like, oh, am I good enough? Do I have the skills to actually stay in the US? Am I, in the beginning, especially through my high school years and so on, I was a very, I'm very special, oh, I can play soccer. Someone is willing to do that and pay for my studies and so on. Great, I'm amazing. You go there, guess what, man? Nobody really cares about it. There are so many other people that they are very similar to you, even better than you. There are always going to be people that are smarter than you and have that ability more gifted in a lot of things. So you see that and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not as special as I thought. But your mind sometimes plays games. You're like, oh my God, maybe I'm not good enough and so on. But I think you should use it as your, as you said, fuel it to your advantage. And for example, right now I have my full-time job. I am willing to not knowing a lot. You are never gonna stop not feeling imposter at some level. So kind of embrace it. Be always in that learning mindset. You might become specialized in something. You're gonna be able to have more experience at it, but always kind of listen to what some other people that are higher than you say. They're always gonna have something valuable to say. And if you think they don't, kind of filter it out. They're always gonna have something good to say. Maybe not all the times, but at some point. And embracing that mindset of acknowledging that it's never gonna go away, and build the mindset to transition and have it there, and knowing that you are never gonna know everything in a room. And think about it. Do you really want to be in a room always to be considered, I guess, the smartest person? Personally, I don't want that. I want to always be in my surroundings of people that they know more than me, so I can, like in quotation, steal. If they're doing something better than me, perfect. I can utilize that. If they are gifted in public speaking, in analytics, in coding, or whatever I want to build in their soft skills and so on, they're doing something better than me. I'm gonna take it and say thank you very much, utilize it and use it to my own advantage. And I think that's great. We have that ability to do that.
Yeah, I think you brought some really valuable points there, and I also do agree with you that you'll never really stop feeling like an imposter. Life is about learning, growing, all these things, and I think it goes back to who you are. You're naturally curious. I mean, of course, you want to learn as much as possible. A lot of people, from my experience and from what I've seen as well, is that they, it's all nice words, learning, growing, developing. But what does that mean in practice? It means that you're going to fall on your feet. It means that you're going to have to take setbacks. It means that you're going to have to use those hard times to fuel and to grow. So yes, I think it's normal and natural to feel like you're not good enough yet, because we're growing every day. I mean, you're going into your work, mindset, networking events, whatever. Okay, when you're in a room in a meeting, what can I learn? I mean, what this guy is, your manager or someone who's been in the role in the company, or a public figure for 20, 30 years. What do they have that I can take from them? I mean, they're successful because of some things, and you want to try to model that. You want to try to see what you can extract from them and grow. So I think it's really important. I don't think anyone will ever stop feeling like an imposter. I think for people who are genuinely want to grow, help other people, help themselves, develop in their careers, personal life, professional life, I think feeling like an imposter can also be a bit of a good thing. You're like, okay, I achieved this, I got this promotion, I now know better. Okay, but what's the next step? Let me go to the next step. You appreciate what you've done, what you've learned, but you're always in that mindset of like, okay, we're here, great job, let's move on. What's the next thing I want to learn? What's the next thing I want to do? And you're not going to be good enough until a certain point. And even then, you're going to want to keep growing. After you feel like you've mastered something, you want to keep growing. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? So from a young careers professional, a young professional who wants to develop their career, get into one, all these things, what advice do you have to give them when they are feeling these moments of doubt within themselves, feeling that they're not good enough?
I would say always try to build genuine connections, mentors, one of the most important things. Throughout that time, I had people that they were, again, people I do believe that they are genuinely good, they want to help, depending on their time, depending on their life circumstances. If they're ahead of you in the curve, they do want to help, they do want to mentor. So kind of reaching for this type of people to help you, either through your network or like a common friend that knows someone and knows someone and so on, and build those connections. And build those connections, but don't let them, because you needed something or you needed help to get a referral for a company, and just let them be. Have them and embrace them and flourish them when you do not need something. build that genuine ability to, hey, I'm going to check in with my mentor right now that everything is great on a monthly basis, once every 2 months. Have a reminder if you feel like there are too many things going on, which is normal. We are bombarded with different types of information in our personal and professional life, and build that muscle. So by building those relationships, you are always gonna have those. You are always gonna succeed by having those mentors on your way, learning and making that genuine human connection.
Yeah, I like that. I wanted to ask you now, based on your career now, I mean, if you look back, let's say 10 years ago when you graduated high school and all these things, I mean, was this a vision you had for yourself, i.e., putting yourself out there, being some sort of, like some people might see you as like a big brother, that you're helping give advice, all these things? In your professional career, having done an undergraduate and a master's in the US, do you feel like this is a vision you had for yourself where you are now, or did you have to develop this ambitiousness to want more where you are right now?
I think from a young age, I did have that, or I want to hope so. I did. I played obviously soccer, football from a young age throughout my life, which was especially in Cyprus very common. A lot of people, a lot of male young athletes play. They aspire to be a professional, like all of us have those dreams. But at the same time, I was also, I guess, doing some things that they were not known as the traditional, right? So I used to play the flute for 8 years when I was younger, different theater plays through my high school, and having that exposure with playing the guitar as well the last few years of high school. So I think I had that on me, looking from my parents too. I'm very grateful for my upbringing. They studied, they went to school, they provided us with a great education, but they always had that mindset. They always told me, always have that explorations. They nudged us of putting us different activities when we were younger, swimming and so on. You are not going to catch up on everything, but I think I had that. But going to the US, again, very grateful for the opportunity. It exposed me to different cultures, different peoples. I have friends from all over the world that I can call them at any moment and share a nice experience, and close good relationship with that. It shows you how much there is out there. So that, I think, slowly the ambitions to the first internship and so on. Hey, I can make it. I can find a full-time job. And that passion on the side with the exciting project of the consultancy with the student athletes as well, how I ended up in the US, kind of helping as well in that aspect. It kind of grew up slowly. I call it as a small labyrinth. So slowly it was there, but through different transitions and kind of exposed in that higher ambition that I want to be successful. I want to do good in the world.
Yeah. Let's say, a young professional or someone who's starting their career now, they're not sure what they want to do. I mean, where they want their careers to go. What advice do you have for those types of, young professionals who are starting their careers out now and they're not sure what they want to do? What advice do you have for them?
Always have the ability to pivot. So we mentioned it briefly before, having the ability to learn something, be curious about it, but then throughout your curiosity, it might end up to a completely different route that you never expected. But keep that in mind and follow it kind of, I would say, religiously. And don't try to change a lot of things at the same time. We humans, we don't have that ability to, oh my God, let me post on LinkedIn and then at the same time send 500 applications and call people and try to network. Do them more gradually, if that makes sense, as take more holistic approach of that. Yes, you might be interested in a degree or in a discipline, but maybe explore that aspect through the digital aspect through the online presence as well. The internet technology has given us that ability of multiple things at the same time. So always kind of that skill of the ability to not being stubborn and saying, I'm only going to do that, I'm going to specialize in that, and that's it. Having the mindset and being willing to learn and grow, that's the biggest advice I have. They're going to figure it out. And then the other thing, sorry, just to follow up there, they're always going to, it's never going to go away. You're never going to always feel like, oh my God, am I good enough? Is it the imposter that we talked about before? Is it a good fit for me? Your first job obviously shouldn't be your last job. And it's always going to be like that. It could be, that's great if you want to do that for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, as much as you want to work, but don't always keep that mindset. I know it's tough, but always have that curiosity. That's the whole idea we're talking right now.
So you believe that, let's say, a young professional doesn't know they've studied, okay? They have a degree in marketing, in mathematics, whatever, and they're going to start a career. You think that it's vital for them, especially in today's day and age, to keep an open mind, to keep asking them questions, and they need to be open to pivoting as well, you said, because jobs are changing, the work-life style is changing, the types of jobs available are changing, all these things. You think it's super important for them to be able to pivot, to be open-minded, and also to be eager to learn and never say that I don't want to learn, I don't want to do these things, yeah?
And get the ability to be rejected. You are gonna get rejected. Kind of build that muscle. And if I would give like a quick tip or advice that worked, take a blank paper and write down 30 people that you know. It could be parents, friends, and so on. From those 30 people, write down what they do for a living. They could be millionaires or whatever. They could be whatever, right? From that, it's a small exercise that I've found value from. From those 30, see what they do. Okay, you like what they do, they would most probably be in different disciplines. From those disciplines, you are definitely going to like something from that. From those 30 people, you like the discipline, try to find a way. How can I communicate directly if I'm not able to with those people? Who do I know that can put me in contact with that specific person? From that specific person, definitely if it's like 30 people that you know and you have like strong bonds, they will be willing to talk to you about. Maybe it's a friend of your family, of your dad, of your mom, a friend or a slight mentor that maybe you don't have yet, but it's someone that you built a good relationship through a class at the university. You are a sophomore, they're a junior in different other universities in Europe, maybe first year, a third year, and so on. You met someone randomly, they know someone, and so on. So start with those 30 people, even start with 10 people, 5 people, and so on. You're going to find those 5 people that you really, really know. They are in different disciplines, and that's going to help you like break down and kind of nudge yourself to start building and hearing from those people that they have way more experience than you, and slowly trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think one valuable thing that you said there for sure, and with your course that you're helping young professionals find, let's say, their path throughout their workplace and all these things, is that, you know, in your course you have templates that can help these young professionals use and adjust and manage to maybe reach out to these people. Maybe, you know, they met someone in a networking event, or, you know, a cousin of yours who's living in another country of yours, and you don't have that regular communication is available to you. You can use maybe some of these templates, or, you know, that you're sharing in your resource guide, to kind of approach them and ask them these things, and ask them something that you're interested about them, you know, reconnect with them. And I'm sure from your experience too, but it makes sense as well that these people, if you reach out to them and you're genuine, you know, why should they not help you? You know, they may see your hunger, your drive, your eagerness, and they could help you, give you some piece of advice, even a couple words, if they have a 5-minute phone call with you, whatever. But at the same time, you got to be prepared. A lot of the things that we said about earlier about rejection, you know, a lot of these people could reject you and probably will reject you because time, you know, they have their own stuff going on, super busy life these days, you know, bombarded, like you said, with personal information all the time. So yeah, it's really important to, if you get rejected, use that, refine your template, refine your approach, and go again until you find someone to do that. So from your course perspective, we're going to deliver your first course as well, mastering soft skills for early career professionals. Excited to have that. From a future perspective now, what would you like to achieve with, maybe additional courses or other ideas that you think you could share and that would be valuable to young and early career professionals?
I think it's a skill that's going to develop throughout the career. So the skill of always keeping in mind that even if I feel like I know stuff, I do not. Always keeping that mindset. So I think as I hone my skills throughout my career, as I become more specialized, or the more life experience that I might have on a professional level, and I would be able to share those in different aspects. I'm looking forward to continue that collaboration with the Institute and making it even more niche in some aspects. There are even, I know a book that comes to mind that someone wrote a very interesting book about oranges, and it's just a whole book that talks only about oranges. So there is always like a skill that you want to look more in depth to. So I'm not sure what that could be, but I want to always keep that mindset of being curious, improve my skills, hone them, and then sharing those perspectives with young professionals as I move on throughout my career, and hopefully keeping that collaboration going on with the Institute. Very excited for that future plans that we'll see how that goes.
Definitely, Andreas. Thank you for that. Before we wrap up here, I wanted to ask you, obviously the podcast is called The Learning Journey. Life is also a learning journey, whether it's professional, personal. How would you describe your learning journey until now in a couple of words?
I think I started from positive, immature kid in high school, all over the place, to someone that tries to kind of narrow my thoughts and what I'm passionate, what I'm driven about. I'm driven from giving, and I hope I have a lot of good energy to others, sharing what I'm learning, because it's a collaborative. I see life and workplace in general a collaborative environment. The times that you build something for yourself and you couldn't share it, that was 50, 60, 40 years ago. Right now, there is no way with that much information out there that you can achieve something just by yourself. Even if you have the greatest idea in the world, you are going to need help. You're going to need engineering, back office, marketing, whatever your product could be. If you are trying to be on the entrepreneurship space, if you're trying to have your 9 to 5, you're going to be some form of team. If you are a doctor or a lawyer or whatever you do, you are going to have to collaborate and work on it, some form of a team. So having that in mind, that's how I think I have improved through the years. I thought I knew everything, I didn't, and I'm glad I changed that mindset, and I'm trying to always remind myself I don't know everything, I don't know nothing. Keep that mindset every day, every single conversation I interact with, and that's kind of the goal for the course, for the learning journey that we share, for the podcast. Thanks again for having me, and generally keeping that mindset forever. If I hope I can to keep it as much as livingly possible.
Awesome. Andreas, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Before we wrap up here, we want to ask you, where can people find you? Let's say a young professional wants some advice from you or wants to connect with you before or after your course or in the future. Where can young professionals and the audience find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Andreas Xenofontos. If they cannot find specific, maybe there are other people with the same name, I change it to the Andreas Xenofontos. So if you use the URL and put /linkedin.com/the Andreas Xenofontos, you'll find me there. Maybe I change it to kind of boost my ego there. I put it there like I'm the one, which is not true. That's one way. I have my email there, andreasxenofontos96@gmail.com, or they can find us through www.ludiusa.com through the consultancy if they are interested for that. Those are the three places that people can communicate with me.
Yes, so we're going to link everything in the description down below. Andreas, again, thank you so much. This was the first episode of the learning journey with our great guest, Andreas. Next, we're going to have a lot of other series where we're going to be, a lot of other episodes in the series where we're going to be interviewing our expert instructors who create courses via the Institute. And just as a teaser, in the next episode, we are going to be interviewing a payments and banking expert, going through their own learning journey, seeing how they started from their early career, maybe even schooling, until they became an expert. And of course, like everyone, it's a learning journey. We're all growing. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.